and I'm your life and relationship strategist. Today we're talking about holiday blues. We're talking about the signs, the symptoms, and the solutions. So thank you for joining us, whether you're live or you're watching the recording after the show. I love your comments and questions. I'm figuring out as I'm doing this that I love answering questions more than anything. It's where I really get excited. So feel free to jump in with the questions, and let's talk about how the holidays can sometimes affect our mood. So the idea that the holiday season, we're entering that right now. We actually kind of had an extended holiday season this year because I'm referencing the Jewish holidays that just passed. But when we talk about the holiday season, we generally are talking about that October through January season where we have several holidays one after the other. But for today's show, I actually want to say that a lot of the things that we're discussing apply to other holidays, which may include things like Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day. So keep that in mind, that this isn't just about the winter holidays. So the holidays often kick off anxiety, depression, and fatigue. And that can include loneliness, sadness, agitation, poor sleep, just a resistance, like a not wanting to be part of it and kind of not knowing what to do with yourself. And so some of these things are caused by the literal change in season at times, especially when we're talking about winter holidays. Daylight savings time just ended for us in the US. I know our family is still adjusting, getting used to getting home, and it's dark already. And in other parts of the world and the country where it's darker longer and you see the sun less frequently, that does have an effect. Even when I'm getting ready to go live on the show and we turn on the lights for the show, it has just an enormous impact on my energy for the show. So we know that sunlight and glow makes a difference in our mood. That's real. There's a lot of science because of science. We know that. So some of it is seasonal. One of the biggest reasons that the holidays affect our mood is because it causes our attention to be drawn to what we don't have. So what are some of the things that we don't have? Well, it may be something we've never had that we wish we had. It may be something we once had that we've lost. Or it could be something like, so I'm mostly talking about people there, but I'm also talking about money. Because a lot of times around the holiday season, there is a lot of pressure to attend parties or to cook meals or to purchase presents and spend time with people, and there's an expectation of closeness. So there's so many layers there. What if I never really learned how to be closer connected to people? Or what if I never really resolve the conflict in my family? Or what if I'm logistically far away from the people that I love? What if I can't afford to get to them? Or what if I can't afford to host them or to contribute with a gift? So we take on a lot of this attention that focuses on what I'm missing, what I lost, what I don't have, and then all of a sudden there's additional pressure to find these things, to get rid of that sensation, and a lot of times we go about it the wrong way. We go about trying to get busy, get creative, schedule a lot of things, or we go the opposite. We withdraw and we isolate. So today I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about finding balance and learning how to recognize kind of the signs that, oh, I'm kind of focusing on what I don't have instead of what I do have, or let me learn how to focus my attention on something that is going to improve my mood or my experience of the holidays. Let's talk about some life hacks for how to actually have fun and not get so down. So I see some questions and comments in the chat box, and I'm going to check in. I see a question, what can we do to beat the holiday blues? What's the difference between holiday blues and seasonal affective disorder? Ooh, a technical question. And is there a way to cope with the holiday blues? Okay, so what can we do to beat the holiday blues? Let me take that one on first. So to beat the holiday blues, the most important thing, and it's not the only thing, but the most important thing is definitely to change your focus. So find something that gives you joy or inspires joy and put your focus on that. So even if it's not the thing that you originally wished and wanted it could be, there's a certain amount of acceptance or letting go that I'm asking you to embrace in order to beat this holiday depression kind of bluesy feeling. And be in acceptance that you're going to let go of what it is that you don't have or you wish you had and focus on something that inspires joy. And if that's work, that's cool, but I hope that it's something in addition to work. And, you know, maybe if it's pets, you go spend time volunteering at a shelter. If it's people, you know, maybe you help out at the, where do you get the free food? You know what I'm talking about? Shelter?
Soup kitchen.
Soup kitchen. You know, if it's nature that you go spend time in nature, whatever it is that inspires joy for you, focus your attention on things that you can do that are going to help to lift your spirits. Some of the other things that you can do are know that if you're affected by things like the daylight, or like the question earlier that says what's the difference between the holiday blues and seasonal affective disorder. Seasonal affective disorder is really more about the impact of the lack of sun and the season where we have less daylight and the perception of shorter days, and it has to do with our absorption of vitamins and the sun, and it's different for everybody because some people are more affected by it than others. So if you know that that's something, then you want to make sure you get as much sunlight as possible. You want to make sure that you maybe if you take medication, that you tweak that medication, or that you make an appointment to see your doctor preemptively before, you know, it's December 21st and you're like, crap, I'm really struggling. So get ahead of it a little bit. Some of the other things that you could do to beat the holiday blues are let go of the expectations. So if you feel pressure or obligation to buy gifts or to make the perfect dinner, make an agreement with yourself that you're going to, you know, make a donation in the name of your favorite charity and tell everyone that you love in your life, this was your gift this year. I made a donation in the name of my favorite charity and I did it in your honor. And it could be just $10, $15, but that could be your gift, and it's that you're thinking of a creative way to still be able to say to somebody, I thought of you, I had a good intention, but I didn't have to spend a lot of money. When it comes to feeling like you have to have the perfect meal or host or the perfect gift to bring to a host or a hostess, you know, just be willing to let go of some of those expectations and embrace imperfection and focus on the intention. Is the intention about creating the perfect holiday place setting, or is the intention about creating some connection, about enjoying the moment? That's another way to beat holiday blues, is to stay in the moment. If you're dreading Thursday already, today's Monday, if you're dreading Thursday, which is Thanksgiving, or the days leading up to it and all the prep that you have to do, or whichever holiday is approaching, take a moment to stop and say, like, okay, it's Monday. I actually did this today, I'm going to tell you. It's Monday and I have a lot to do because it's a short week and I have a lot to prepare for, not just the holiday, but we're going to be traveling. And I need to refocus on the fact that I don't have to do all of these things for work and for family and to travel. I get to do them. Sometimes life is hard and it's complicated and there's more to do, but I have all four limbs. I have my mind. I have my health. I have a family to go travel to. So find the things that you do have that you can be grateful for, and remind yourself you get to do these things, because there are people who don't. There are people who are separated. There are people who are you know, maybe in the military and they're away. There are people who have been separated by death. There are people who are sick or injured and they're stuck in a hospital bed right now, and they'd give anything to have the stress of the holidays around them. So kind of refocus a little bit on what you get to do instead of what you have to do. Hope that makes sense. So I think I've kind of touched on how can we deal with the holiday blues, as well as what's the difference between just kind of regular holiday sadness and the difference between seasonal affective disorder. If I haven't, please let me know in the chat box. I see a little action, and I'm just going to check in and see what's going on in there. So is it okay to take some time for yourself? The holidays are usually a lot about family time, or is it selfish? Is it okay and important to be a little selfish? So the holidays do tend to be a lot about family, and I think that that's a beautiful thing, that we have kind of a mechanism that draws us together. And so then there's two things there. Is it okay to be selfish and to take care of yourself? Yes. My answer to that is almost always unequivocally yes. Did I say that word right? Unequivocally? I'm going to check that later. The second thing is with family, sometimes we go into those family occasions with resentments, with dread, with fear that there's going to be conflict or something that we can't control. And, you know, we carry the past with us. And so there's all these other things that we're bringing to that family time that make it more stressful than it actually is. So we probably wouldn't need as much time to ourselves if we were able to separate ourselves from the drama that we replay in our minds, if that makes sense. So yes, find balance, take care of yourself, set aside time for yourself. I remember spending years traveling for every holiday, me going to my family, and it's a little easier now that I have a daughter to say, you know what, we're going to stay home for Christmas. And that's okay, and we're more satisfied with that. So we're not always traveling everywhere. So yeah, those are choices that we make. But also, if I can go into a potentially hostile family environment, or where I know there's gonna be a lot going on, and just say, you know what, I'm not gonna let it bother me. I'm not gonna get dragged into a fight. I'm not gonna take the bait. I'm not going to try to change somebody or control something. I'm just gonna roll with it and keep my focus on the intention of the holiday, which is whatever that is for you. and nobody can decide that for you. It doesn't have to be about religion or spirituality or gratitude. It can be about whatever it is that you want it to be, but find your intention that works for you and keep your focus there. And then take care of yourself and be a little selfish when you need to. I hope I answered that question. Do you have any tips to avoid or stop conflict during a holiday event? Yes, don't bring it with you. So even if you go into it and you agree that, okay, I'm not going to bring conflict with me to a holiday event, and you see conflict break out, it's okay to make a conscious choice to walk away. It's okay, even if somebody starts picking on you. A lot of times during holiday events, there's a lot of excess drinking, and sometimes that can lead to conflict. So be aware of how much, if you drink, be aware of, or use any other substance, be aware of how much you consume, just if you know it's going to be a sensitive event. Just be cautious, because the more, if you drink or you use any other substances, the more that you consume those things, the more likely it is that there's going to be a conflict, and it's going to be harder. You're not going to have the same level of mental fortitude, if you will, to stay out of a fight. So be aware of how much you're consuming. Just be maybe mindful of how much people are consuming around you. If it starts to get contentious, take a break, maybe go outside, take a time out, go to the bathroom, take some deep breaths, and then make a decision. Is it time for me to go? Do I need to stay? And what's the best decision for me right now? You don't always have to stay in an event to clean up at the end. You can always just say, hey, what can I do to help? You know, I'm going to get going in the next 15 minutes. And so just stay kind of checked in with yourself. And know what your red flags are if you're getting what we call amygdala hijacked, meaning the part of the brain that experiences emotions at that really intense level. Know if you're starting to creep into that zone. And if you do get amygdala hijacked, take a time out. go to the bathroom, take deep breaths, call me, do whatever it is that you have to do to bring it back down so that you can make a rational decision and not ruin the holiday for yourself, if that makes sense. So let's see, there's another comment there. I read about a post-vacation. I'm having trouble reading this comment. My apologies. I read about a post-vacation. It's coming. Blues also. Okay, like a letdown response, where people fall into a depression after the holidays when they're back into their old routine, missing their family far away. What can we do? So I love that question. It doesn't just happen with the holidays. It tends to happen when there's anything that we're anticipating. So for people who anticipate vacations or anticipate a competition or anticipate a holiday, some people really function in life by having something to look forward to. And then once that thing is over, then there's what we call a letdown effect. And sometimes that letdown effect can lead to depression if it goes unchecked. So that is an absolutely great question, and it applies even outside of the holidays. So you're genius for asking it. So what you can do about that is you can use little life hacks to stay connected after the holidays, like preemptive life hacks, like maybe agree to FaceTime, or Skype with a loved one a couple extra times that follow-up week, just to maybe review the fun or the things that you were grateful for, your favorite moments, the highlights, and then maybe also if you know that you're traveling or you're going to be with family for the holidays and you know you're going to miss them when you say goodbye, then maybe have some plans set up in advance for when you return home or when you're separated from your family, reconnect with your community, and you have that net or that soft place to land. And no, of course it's not the same, but it doesn't have to be the same, because each group of people in our lives, they have a different purpose and it's a different relationship. So maybe make some plans in advance so you know that when you get back you have some closeness to lean into. And then you might do some things like have a playlist, a happy life playlist. That's a life hack I use a lot, is to have a list of songs that I know are going to boost my mood, and make sure I turn the music on. If I turn the music on, my husband is really good about this. It's something I really work to remind myself of. When I have the music playing throughout the day, it really lifts my spirits. I tend to be more efficient at work, and I tend to I notice that I'm in a better mood. So things like that can help, the plans that you put in place ahead of time, if you know that you're someone who looks forward to things and then feels a letdown afterwards. I hope I answered your question. Let's see. Is there a polite way to deflect questions from relatives that you might be uncomfortable with or that can lead to conflict? That's a great question, because holidays tend to be a time of catching up. We sometimes see people that we haven't seen in a long time. So deflecting questions is one of my expertise, because I love neurolinguistic programming, and that means retraining our brains about how we think and how we talk and the power of our words. And so deflecting questions, you have to know what your level of comfort is in conversational skills in that social setting. But let's say someone was going to ask me about how much progress I've made on my book. That's a pretty benign question, right? And I'm disappointed in myself because I haven't gotten as much writing done as I'd like to have recently. And I say, you know what? Thank you so much for asking. I love that you're showing an interest in my interests. Let's talk about that after the holidays, because I'm just bogged down with work expectations right now. So that would be a benign one. There are a lot more sensitive topics that people might answer about: when are you having babies? How's your divorce coming? Some question about when are you going to start dating, which might for someone out there be a question really related to sexuality. And so some of those really sensitive questions that are none of their business, a great way to deflect is still using that same line that I used. Thank you so much for taking an interest in my life. I genuinely appreciate that you care enough to ask. And you have to decide for yourself, I really don't feel like talking about that today, or I'd really rather focus on just spending time with you right now, or I'd really rather just focus on enjoying this event that we're at, or I'd really rather focus on something more positive today, and finding whatever sentence like that works well for you. So first thanking the person for their interest, and then finding a redirect that doesn't sound dismissive, that doesn't sound hurtful. And it's okay to not answer a question. You know, you can even say, thank you for asking. That's just a really personal thing right now that I'm not ready to talk about yet. So I hope I've given you a few options that you can kind of work with. You know, it's never good to memorize what I tell you. It's always better to work with what I share and then find what works for you inside of there. So that it comes naturally to you. Because when we try to memorize something and regurgitate it, it doesn't usually go well. So that's a great question though, because the holidays are a time where, you know, God, I can just think of some of the stories in my life. Like right now, my in-laws, God bless them. The grandparents, my daughter's great-grandparents, they're both in the hospital right now. It's being very stressful for my in-laws, and you know, so that's a sensitive thing when there's health issues and problems like that. You know, I know of people who are going through divorce right now. I know of people who just had miscarriage. I know of people who struggle with depression on a regular basis. You know, issues around sexuality. These are all things that I hear about every day, and these are real things that at holiday time it does increase that sensitivity. You know, when you are dealing with a breakup or something like that, and you're trying to make plans even for the holidays, and you want to go and you want to be close to people, but you don't want to talk about it, you don't want to get sucked into the dark feeling. When you accept the invitation to the event, you can say, I'd love to come and I want to be there, but know that I don't want to talk about this topic. Not because I don't want to share it with you, but because I want to focus on joy right now. And I just don't want to get dragged down. So you can always include that in accepting an invitation, where your line is about what you are and you are not willing to talk about if you're going through a particularly difficult time in your life right now. And there are people out there who aren't going to respect your boundary. And so to those people, then you may just say, I hear you, and I'm done now. Thank you. I love you. And, you know, just be very clear, keep it very simple, and be very direct. And if you know that this is somebody who chronically abuses boundaries, then it may not be the best time to accept an invitation if you're going through a really hard time. So let me just double check what's in the chat box. Let's see. In your experience, I'm wondering if I'm having like a vision issue today. I need to get my eyes checked. In your experience, is as a therapist, do couples fight more during the holidays? It totally depends. Probably on the whole, yes, couples do fight more because it's about how we're going to spend our money, how we're going to spend our time. So for couples, absolutely, it's about, you know, gift giving, trying to portion out our time between families typically, and just being more stressed out and more burdened, that we tend to not be our nicest when we're more stressed out in general. So do couples fight more? Yes. And so then my recommendation for you as a marriage and family therapist is definitely to be kind to each other and to know that those stressors are there and you're human, and to cut each other some slack. And maybe, you know, I know we're already getting into obviously Christmas and Hanukkah. I was going to say Chrismukkah. I was going to sneak out. Chrismukkah is coming. And so working as best as you can to make an agreement about money and time, and really being in agreement, because that's where couples really have problems and land on my sofa, is when you have a conversation, but you don't really reach an agreement, or you reach an agreement and then one goes behind the other's back, which means there was never actually an agreement. You just pretended there was an agreement, and that's dishonest. So if you can't reach an agreement, then it may be time to have a third party help you take a look at it, because it's not worth the holidays damaging your relationship. So that's a great question about relationships. I see another question. There are many expectations that come with the holidays. Not all of them are able to be met, how does one cope with the expectations that can't be met? So are you looking at, that's a great question, are you looking at your own disappointment with not being able to meet the expectations, or are you looking at the people around you that are saying they have expectations of you? So for yourself, you might want to really make a priority list. What are my priorities? And when we write things down, they're far more effective. And it really only takes a couple of moments on a post-it note or a receipt in your purse or your wallet or your car center console, if you're me. Just grab a receipt and a pen and make a list. What are my priorities? And then be willing to stick to that. And so then you can let go of any of the expectations that get placed on you or that you experience as they come up. You can double check that list that you made and say, is this in line with my list? No. Okay. And when you make your list, also make sure it's a reasonable list and it doesn't have a whole bunch of unreasonable expectations on there, like, you know, I want to get it all perfect and I want to do it all. And then if other people express disappointment, you know, I find that it's easy to go with that kind of resistance, to just say, I hear you, you're right, I wasn't able to do that, and I'm sad that I wasn't able to be there, or I'm sad that I wasn't able to be a part of that, or, you know, whatever it is, and I'll look forward to the future, to the next opportunity. And so you know, getting defensive with other people around expectations is typically never going to be a solution. So it's usually a lot easier to just acknowledge, share how you're feeling, and move on. But most of the time, expectations, we want to really stay focused on our own, which means making a reasonable list and sticking to it. And if something pulls you away from that list, be willing to stay in agreement with yourself. Because just like couples get into trouble when they break agreements with each other, we get into trouble when we break agreements with ourselves. Same concept. So great question. Thanks for that. So there have been so many awesome questions in the chat box today. I love it. I think we covered a lot of great ideas about the holiday blues, that it's everything from the weather to going through really hard things in life, to how to deal with family conflict, to how to address expectations on ourselves, whether they're internal expectations from ourselves or from other people in our lives. We talked about how to handle difficult topics. If we get questions about things that we're sensitive about, we talked about how to set boundaries ahead of time, some life hacks for how to deal with our time after the holidays are over, you know, when you got to take the Christmas tree down and you shed a little tear. That's me. When you know, when we're feeling disconnected or we get that letdown effect. So put a lot of plans in place and ahead of time, make some agreements with yourself, set some boundaries, have a few key phrases in your pocket that you can use that are disarming and that you're comfortable with, and always, always, always be willing to take a time out, to take a few breaths, to call someone and ask for help. And if you want that to be me, that's a great choice. Feel free to check out my website, dawnwigginstherapy.com, and schedule a free consult. Shoot me an email. If you would like to schedule a session to kind of have me help you strategize some of this specifically for your circumstances, we can do that. It doesn't matter where you are in the country. I use a HIPAA compliant, really easy to use software. So wherever you are in the world, I can come to you and we can navigate these issues together. So if this video has been helpful to you at all, please be sure to hit a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you can be notified when there's more great live shows like this one, and when there's other videos that hit the wire. So thank you so much. Have a blessed and happy holiday season. May it not be perfect, but may it be everything that you want it to be. And I'll see you next week.